Nice.
Much better.
Wow.
That was an
That was a good one.
8.5.
That was an 8. Proud of you, youngin. All right. Curt,
Yes, sir.
Pixie Dust. Give me the good, the bad, the ugly, In-furrow, and Foliar.
Can we also talk 2x2?
Oh,
Yo,
of course.
yeah,
Of course.
All right,
Yes.
cool. All right.
Planter, non-planter.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the bad and the ugly, because I always like to get all the bad parts out of the way first, right?
Tear us down, build us
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Does not mix with calcium. In fact, this is part of the reason why I wanted to bring up the 2x2. So some guys, have In-furrow and 2x2 on their planter. That's all well and good. If you are running like a calcium, even usually a chelated calcium, we don't mix, right? Because the chemical reaction, I'm going to nerd out real quick, is calcium and silicate forms an insoluble calcium silicate, and then falls out, and then you have sand in your tank, and everybody does not like that. That's a bad day, okay? So just don't do that. And I'm talking even if you have like crazy hard water. So it's easily resolved. Earlier we talked about water testing. Get a water test. They're not expensive. And then we can know if we need to put a little AMS in that water first, right?
Okay.
No big deal. So you can pre-slurry the stuff and then put it right in the top of the tank and be fine. Or we could go straight, if you're running something like a 1034, a 318, 624.6, 924.3, I don't care. Usually we can go straight into the fertilizer then at that point, because we don't have to worry about the other impurities in there. So doesn't mix with calcium, doesn't mix with crazy hard water. All right, that's the bad news. So we created the 2x2 because I know there are some guys that really want to run the In-furrow, or run calcium In-furrow. That's fine. If you're running calcium In-furrow, we'll slide out to your 2x2 and all is well and good. I've had guys ask, hey, can we switch those, right? Can we take the 2x2 and go In-furrow? There's a pretty significant price difference in terms of the 2x2 is less expensive on a per gallon basis, because there are things in the In-furrow, the synergists that I use on the In-furrow are considerably more expensive because you're going to run less gallons and it's concentration based, right?
Yep.
So I would say we probably don't need both unless you are in a crazy high stress situation. I mean, like if you are really struggling to raise a crop, then we could talk about it. But this is not designed to be let's add on at every single layer. I'm not trying to sell you you need my seed treatment and my In-furrow and my 2x2 and. It's what works with the farmer's system that he's currently got in place. So let's meet you where you're at. You don't have In-furrow, but you got 2x2. We can make that work. And this is for our monocots, right? We talked about that earlier. So corn. This is for corn. This is for grass. Is wheat. If you guys set up, their drill set up In-furrow or 2x2, we can make that work as well.
Okay. Why Pixie Dust?
Beautiful. I don't want your best acres. If you're going to test this, I want your worst acres. I'm a weirdo, okay? All of the stuff that I have built thus far that is silica-based is a silica-based stress mitigating fertilizer. And finally, all these big companies are finally starting to talk about stress, whatever, but the research on this is super clear. We mitigate abiotic stresses in ways that we don't even fully understand yet. I'm talking heavy metal toxicity. So you got low pH and you're struggling because you're getting too high of aluminum, too high of manganese, whatever, we can help with that. If you have heat stress or drought stress, we get silica into that plant early, and this is critically important. So In-furrow is good because it gets into that plant early, and then as it moves up and out through the leaves, we silicify, right? Or we get the silica concentrated early on in that plant's life and what effectively becomes the old growth. And so we are able to make claims about we can help reduce lodging. One of my favorite things is if you put this out on a field and you walk out there and just take your hands and bend plants over, we've literally seen guys that'll snap off the untreated and the treated will bounce right back up, kind of like in that commercial.
Yep.
So we strengthen those like intercellular spaces. So heat stress, drought stress, heavy metal toxicity. Basically just, you've heard people say never let your corn plant have a bad day. All right, we're going to help make a bad day not quite so bad. Like I said, lodging, all those things that tend to be problem children, that's where we want. So if you get a crazy hot, dry year, we're going to show great in your sandy ground. Probably make less of a difference in that heavy black dirt like here in central Illinois because it's got a better water holding capacity and therefore it's naturally less inclined to get drouthy, right? So whatever your major source of stress is, that's what we're going to help mitigate.
Quickly, monocots, corn, wheat.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we were talking about In-furrow and 2x2.
Yes.
So now the foliar side.
Yes, dicots. So dicots, this is your soybeans, your potatoes, your hemp. We've got to go as a foliar. Still early, very important. We still want to get early on in that plant's life.
What stage of beans?
V3 ideally.
Okay.
So most guys, that's going to be co-application with a post-pass. Okay. And Alex, who we just talked to, and I were both kind of risk-averse nerds. So we are not doing the hard and or playing quick and fast with the label where it's like, oh, just go through it on dicamba. We spent the money and the time and researched it and got the label is approved for co-application with Ingenia, Enlist Duo, Extendamax. So we're actually good for co-application,
Great.
labeled legal above board.
That's easy, right?
Ish.
No, sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. Not that. Easy. Like, that's an easy step for me as a farmer.
Yes.
I'm already there. I'm already running in the field.
Yes.
What's something I can do? It's like, hey, one time,
One pass.
I got, let's say, I'm just going to say I got X amount of dollars. Where do I stick it foliar? Have we seen the best ROI at?
V3.
Okay, right there.
V3.
What about corn?
I wouldn't put it on corn unless, again, as a rescue treatment. So if you're pineappled, like you're really struggling, I would do that. But the silica is going to get on there and it's going to actually close those stomata, right? So we've had guys do this in potatoes where like our crop they've told me they're like, it's dead. I said, guys, this is not Jesus. It's not bringing it back from the dead, but they will swear up and down they can bring it back from almost dead. It's like the Princess Bride movie. Well, now my ADHD is kicking in because the meds are gone. Sorry. Gee whiz. But it will close those stomata, right? And then help that plant to relax a little bit because plants are basically like a wick or like a pump, right? We're pumping water out of the ground when we transpire. And so what happens is when we have that humidity gradient is screwed up or the water gradient to where it's dry outside the leaf, right? We're actually trying to suck water through the plant, out of the ground, through the plant, and then and equalize the pressure and the moisture, right? So what happens though is when we run out of water in the ground and it's still dry out here, now we're cavitating that pump. We're stressing that plant. And when we close those stomata, we stop transpiration and the plant can go whew, and just relax a little bit. So I would only put it on corn as a rescue treatment. The Pixie Dust Plus.
Got you. So in-furrow on corn. Foliar on
beans and potatoes,
things like that.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. What's it gonna do? What am I gonna see beneficial wise from a foliar pass of Pixie Dust?
So it's not uncommon. We've got some pictures posted of this where guys will go out and spray it, and even driving by the field, a week later, a week to 2 weeks later, to see a visible difference between the treated and the untreated in terms of just like overall plant health, but also in terms of biomass, right? Like we're creating a healthier plant that way, which I want to make sure and point out is not the case for the in-furrow. Okay, like this is not the in-furrow on the corn. The only time you will see a visual difference is if you go dig roots. We will absolutely help build a more robust like root system. But it is weird that guys are like, I didn't see anything all season long until the combine, and then it was 8 to 9 to 10 bushels on the yield monitor.
Gotcha.
And normally you're like, oh man, you see a visual and then it doesn't give you a yield difference. On something. But this is the exact opposite. But if you go dig the roots and go look at the roots, that's the only place you'll see a visual on the corn, because again, it's just how the monocot dicot, right? But the foliar, a lot of times you'll be able to see that driving by.
And what's that? What, like, talk a little bit science, not deep science. What's the plant benefiting from this application? The dicots.
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 So we're doing several different things here, and I believe that part of the reason we see the best benefit by doing this early is because silica does not translocate in the plants, right? So once you get it on, that's where it's going. And what is it? By doing it at V3, that is what effectively becomes the old growth as that plant progresses. Okay, so I'm gonna quote John Kempf here for a second and talk a little bit of theory, because we don't have all the data on this yet. In full disclosure, John has talked about how when a plant gets stressed, right, what it tends to do is it tends to shut down the new growth, and the old growth keeps growing or it protects itself. And I believe that when we, again, theoretically silicify or get the silica around those stomata and what is the old growth, I think what we're probably doing is we're shutting down those stomata and we're allowing that plant to continue to transpire, but taking all the resources to the new growth, I think. Again, that's something that we're hoping to test in the future, but I believe that to be the case because we've seen really, really good results with that.
So is this a silica product?
Yes, they are both silica-based products.
Okay, gotcha. So we talk about silica and importance to nitrogen, right? Am I thinking correctly?
I like silica for helping the absorption of calcium for sure.
Okay.
And then boron as well.
Oh, gotcha. So I wasn't on the right train with nitrogen.
I mean, if you have good plant structure, so on and so forth, I can make an argument.
It's a
but
layer
like
to
the
a
argument
system.
is calcium.
Okay.
That's the argument.
Okay, gotcha.
Structure,
Which is vital
structure,
nutrient.
structure.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. Very
And so,
cool.
sometimes potassium, I've had guys ask me,
Fair
they're like,
enough.
hey,
Yep.
if I put this
calcium,
on...
potassium work. I mean, actually, I'm going to pause.
You go for it.
Go ahead. No, you
Okay.
go.
Well, no, but it's interesting because I can't look in the eye and say, oh, I'm definitely going to increase your potassium uptake or I'm definitely going to increase your calcium uptake. What we have found is tends to happen is the nutrient uptake tends to be more balanced, right? So whereas we may have an abundance of calcium, and you'll actually see the calcium come down in those situations, but a better plant health, because it's helping to regulate, helping the plant regulate and keep it kind of between the the guardrails, like I was talking about.
Yeah.
Cool.
So just a reminder, any precautions on the foliar side? Like maybe, okay, they have the intentions to do it. When would you say, no, don't do it?
I've had guys test it as late as like R3.
Okay.
And it's not going to hurt anything, but you lose out on the benefits.
Okay.
Like, yeah, like from what we have seen, the consistency goes down. I mean, like, we're Beck's PFR proven guys at V3. We built this stuff out of our garage when we lived in Washington, right? Like, dude with no background in chemistry. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished with all that, but I feel like the consistency just goes down a little bit. So you go from highly, highly consistent, very predictable results to, maybe not once we get into the reproductive stages.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Rates.
Okay, so I'll go as quick as I can on this.
Yep.
We always start with the science that says concentration, so it's in grams per gallon. As of this year, only on the foliar, on Pixie Dust Plus, we now have enough data to say we're going to go to grams per acre just on the foliar. So it's 18 grams per acre, and it had always been 1.8 grams per gallon, right? But we got data at 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and 15 gallons an acre. So that was where we now have putting all that together. We're confident that we can say, hey, like we can go at one jar basically does 100 acres now.
And that is on the Pixie Dust Plus.
That's foliar.
Plus is foliar.
Yes.
Pixie Dust is In-furrow.
In-furrow. Pixie Dust 2x2 is 2x2.
You have a Pixie Dust 2x2.
And yeah.
Okay.
So, word of caution on the 2x2: do not wide drop that. It is not intended to be, hey, sideband at any time. It is at planting, because if you get silica on a plant at the wrong time, and we close down those stomata when we don't have a stress situation and we're rapid uptake of nitrogen, you shut that plant down, you cause problems.
Yep.
You absolutely can cause problems.
Fair enough.
So it needs to go early on in that plant's life, right? Like get it into that, what will effectively be that old growth.
Sure.
Awesome.
Okay. At planting.
At planting.
Got it. And that was Pixie Dust,
In-furrow,
and
2x2. Yep.
Okay. That's simple.
Yeah.
Do what the label says.
Do what the label says.
In-furrow and 2x2.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Rates with guys running foliar, is more gallons better? How do, on a dicot?
We've had guys, like I said, running 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, and it seems like, the reason we're going now with that 18 grams an acre is because we can actually get 2 diminishing returns, right?
Absolutely.
The ROI is not as good. It goes up exponentially.
Like gallons coverage.
Oh yeah, no. We're as long as you get that 18 grams out there, I'm good. I've had guys that can run low. I would say I'd prefer not to see you probably go below 5. So I know there's the drone guys, right? It's like, but from a coverage standpoint, I do think probably that 5 to 10 on the low end. Guys running Liberty 15, 20, that should be great too.
Okay, great. Any other questions for this, John?
I think that's a good starting point. We all know that there's going to be a what if, right?
Jar test.
Yes,
always jar
test.
test. Always
When
jar
in
test.
doubt.
Always check your water pH, because this does tend to raise the pH of the solution if you put it into water. If you go into a fertilizer, again, a 318-18, no impact. You go into your well water, whatever, we do tend to raise the pH, and you may need to adjust that down after you put it into.
And that's for your post spray on beans, having this product. Check after you've added the product to see how much you need to tone it back down for that herbicide to be more effective for you.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. Sounds great. pH, you like to run at foliar?
Again, it depends on what you're pairing it with, because if your herbicide needs to be down, take it down.
Let's just say foliar.
If you're running it by itself or with fertilizer, I wouldn't. It'll take the pH of your water up to almost 10.
Okay.
And the guys will say, well, wait a minute, you got to have an acidic pH to get stuff into the plant. That's not what we've seen with silica. That's true with a lot of stuff, not necessarily with silica.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty ease of use then.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Sweet.
Sounds good. Curt, thank you.
Thank you guys. It's been a blast.
Appreciate it. And that's a little bit on silica.
Pixie Dust.
Pixie Dust. Pixie Dust Plus, and Pixie Dust. In-furrow 2x2 and plus.
You got it.
Got it. All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.